Hello and welcome to the Nicole Mason Show, the show where we are uplifting women, showcasing powerful, trailblazing women who have strategies, information about how you too can be victorious in life, business, and career. And today I am so extremely excited about my guest. And I want to read just a little bit of her bio because she is a powerhouse and I know she has so much to offer. And I want to spend our time hearing from her. But let me introduce you to Dr. Jennifer Jones Bryant, who is the executive founder of Reaching Within an Empowerment Journey, LLC, multi-best-selling and international best-selling author, multi-award-winning certified life coach, career strategist, mentor, adjunct instructor, and international empowerment speaker. Dr. Jennifer Jones Bryant was fatherless during her childhood. She spent her teenage years caring for her mother, who was mentally ill when Dr. Bryant's only sibling was incarcerated. After going through sexual assault and domestic abuse throughout her early 20s and later dealing with the loss of all her loved ones that left her deeply depressed. Dr. Bryant looked past her challenging beginnings and reached within herself and relied on faith to find strength. As a transformational leader, she has since spent her life helping others find and grow their inner strength to accelerate to the next level in their careers. Her 33-year career and executive level experience with the federal government and corporate spanned many functional areas, including budget and finance, human resources, procurement coordination, logistical support, strategic planning, strategic communication, and diversity, inclusion, and belonging, and on and on and on this bio goes. So I want you to hear from her. Let me welcome Dr. Jennifer Jones Bryant to the Nicole Mason Show. Welcome, Dr. Bryant.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It is an absolute honor to come on your show today.
Well, thank you so much. And I want to jump right in because there is so much ground for us to cover. And you're such a powerful woman. And, I know that many times people look at your success and sometimes they just think you just have arrived. But you and I both know that there is always a backstory behind someone who is super successful, such as yourself. So I want to just talk and ask you to just share a little bit about who is Dr. Jennifer Jones Bryant.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I always talk about people see your end state, they see your now, but they haven't seen the process to get to the now. And so I am victorious. I am
Mm,
unashamed. I am confident, and I am walking in what God has for me. And so I am a mother of two beautiful daughters,
mhm.
as well as being remarried, and that brought on a blended family.
Mhm.
So, and I have a big old dog as well. I like to throw. I, I keep saying he's still a puppy, y'all. He's
Uh-huh.
150 something pounds. He's still
Oh
a
my
puppy.
goodness. Yeah, we cannot forget the fur babies. We cannot forget them.
We can't forget them. But yes,
Yeah.
yes. So, you know, I tell you, at the age of 17, my life changed. It was never the same. And
Mhm.
as a senior in high school, I had to deal with leaving home quickly because in the middle of the night, my mom threw bullets against my locked door and threatened to kill me if I
Mm,
tried to poison her again because she was so delusional.
mhm,
And that was the highest peak of fear, because there were other stories during my senior year, but that was it. That was the
mhm,
pivotal moment that changed my life, and I left. And I escaped, but I wanted to be nearby. So I
mhm,
went downstairs to my neighbor's house, someone who I saw as a father figure, and I didn't know that wasn't a good decision on my part because
mhm,
my only brother was incarcerated during the time. So that ended up being in, a sexual attempt
Sure.
there. And I said, no, I can't stay here. And I escaped and left that situation and went to go live with one of my aunties. So I then began to be in survival mode.
Mhm.
Nicole, I was always waiting for the other shoe to drop. So
Right.
my anxieties were high. I was getting calls about her, but I knew that life was better for me.
Mhm.
She had a fifth grade education, and I wanted to be a first generation college graduate. So
Mhm.
I said, okay, there's better for me. And so I use this quote all the time. You've probably seen it on social media. You are interviewing every day, whether you
Mhm.
realize it or not. So, 18, riding the subway on the way to a job fair, met a lady. She said, you know, where you going? And
Mhm.
I told her when I got to my stop, I was going to job fair. She said, don't go any further. You are hired. So
Wow.
that was a life lesson for me, that you are interviewing every day, whether it's a formal setting or not. And so, with that being said, that's, I focused on trying to do better in my career. I got mentors along the way to help me in my developmental growth areas and opportunities, and remaining open to that feedback. But in the backdrop, Nicole, in the backdrop, I was in so
Mhm.
much pain
Yeah.
because seeing my mom go through what she was going through, and then having to deal with, younger youth, as you said, in early
Mhm.
20s, two different relationships. It wasn't from my first husband, but two different relationships where, it was domestic abuse involved. And
Mhm.
so leaving those relationships, but still trying to show up at work, great, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, show up great,
Yeah.
still trying to show up great, but I was in so much pain. And fast forward over 10 years ago, I lost my mom suddenly.
Mhm.
Um, and she died from choking aspiration
Mm.
while eating. And
Wow.
then and I thought she probably would pass from something else with, having mental illness and other health situations. And then a few years later, my brother at the age of 49 um died within 30 days. And
Wow.
it was sudden. And so I said, God, you left me here for a reason. And
Mhm.
I'm going to trust you as to what that reason is, and you're going to guide me to where I need to go. So I could no longer, I had to get released from that pain. And part of my release was to start sharing my story, right,
Mhm.
of how I've overcome and the process that it took to go through it. It was a lot of life lessons, Nicole, a lot.
Well, let me tell you, I have to take you back because I'm still in awe of the lady saying you're hired, because you and I, as women of faith, know that that was just not a coincidence. And, I really also want to stop and just pause for a moment, because we came up in a time where people were not as comfortable as they are today. And even still today, there's still some stigma around mental illness. And so, having dealt with that, having to deal with that, let me just ask you, you know, did you have any assistance from any other family members, trying to deal with your mom's mental illness during that time?
I'm so glad that you raised that question. Um, no. And so my bonus dad, who's he's been in my life since I was 5. They
Hmm.
got remarried about the time of when I was a senior. He didn't know what to do.
Hmm.
So he relied upon me. And so, one thing about me, anyone who knows me, I will figure it out. And
Hmm.
so, I had to get beyond myself and my own ego and say, I need help. And I start learning about the system. I
Hmm.
wrote my local congressional person to share
Right.
what was going on. How
Hmm.
do I get help? And so, I ended up having to go down to the court system and make that plea for her to get picked up, and
Hmm.
explaining what was happening, where people felt, I felt at risk for my
Yeah.
life.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and it was a horrible, horrible experience because if you know anything about this experience, the sheriff department, they send somebody out to pick them up, and they locked her up with
Mm-hmm.
handcuffs, right?
Yeah.
Picked her up with handcuffs, put her in and it was painful. I was like 17. I was like, how could I have done this to my mom? I kept saying it's for my best. But the other
Mm-hmm.
piece about the family part, I had a lot of anger.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
how can y'all let me go? But God said,
Mm-hmm.
when I got older and matured, not only as through age, but also through, my relationship with him, he said they weren't in a space and place
Mm-hmm.
to help because they didn't understand it, so they feared it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And let me just ask you before we go back to, this angel saying you're hired. But let me just ask you, how has that experience impacted your work today?
Oh my gosh, that experience impacted my work in terms of how I explain leadership
Mm-hmm.
and how it's important to humanize leadership and make it relational, and know that people have things outside of work
Mm-hmm.
that could impact their professional lives, and why it's important to be there for your employees, for your associates, and by God, for yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
so I tapped into the employee assistance program through different times through my career, and
Mm-hmm.
they had showed up for me. So that's my response to that.
Yeah, that's powerful. That's really, really powerful. And you talked about your brother and just grieving. And during this time around the holiday season, it can be very, very difficult for
Oh my
people.
God, yes.
I know for myself personally. So how were you able to navigate during that time when it first happened until you could really wrap your arms around, you had to move on after so much loss.
So it wasn't like let's see, because immediately after my brother passed, I my 18-year marriage ended. So that
Mm,
was another pain I had to go through.
hmm.
So I realized one day as I was sitting on the couch, and I remember the day very clearly. I was upstairs in my sitting room, and all I was doing was crying, crying, crying. Now, this cry seemed different than the other cries that I had going to work and from work. This
Hmm.
cry was more of transformational, where I was reaching within myself, and I reached out to my friend, close friend and family, and said, I need help.
Hmm.
I think I'm depressed. I am going to go see someone, because it
Hmm.
was different behaviors that was showing up, sleeping all the time, didn't want to be engaged with my children, crying all the time, emotional eating, just it was just a whole host of different things. Work was not on par according to the way I like it. It wasn't
Right.
on
Right.
par like I would like. And so and I had other people depending on me, overseeing, huge budget, lots of
Hmm.
people working for me. So I went and saw a psychiatrist and a therapist, and
Hmm.
I'm not ashamed to say, okay, I had to go on medicine for a little bit, right?
Hmm.
Because
Hmm.
there was a chemical imbalance, but it was so relieving for me, so for psychiatrists and therapists to say to me, you have gone through trauma.
Yes.
No one had ever told me that.
Yeah.
You have
Yeah.
had multiple traumas in your life, and I can't believe that you are still standing here,
Yeah.
sitting here.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Girl,
said,
that's
okay.
powerful. And
Mhm.
and and let me just say too, my mantra in life, and I have encouraged so many other women, to seek out counseling. My mantra is counseling plus Jesus equals you can't go wrong. And
I
so,
like that.
to have you just to talk about having the courage to say that I need help is just powerful, particularly for those who are listening. And I want you to talk about, just this powerful career that you ultimately have had and continue to have in a different space. Talk about how you went from you're hired on the subway because that was an angel uh, that started you on the trajectory all the way up to the senior levels in the workplace?
So I will tell you, when I got that opportunity, I didn't go to any, I don't recall going to anybody else's table. I just signed my name on that list. And then I showed up, and I showed up with the spirit of learning. I was
Mhm.
younger, like I said. And so I came with attitude because I was still dealing with my personal
Yeah.
issues. I was defensive. I was protective. I had the fight or flight
Hmm.
situation going on. So you couldn't say nothing wrong to me, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
so I had, informal mentors who came and helped me. But yes,
Mhm.
I rose, and I think others saw in me that there was a story that was there, because in that same government building where I was a clerk typist, at night, I will put my hair in a ponytail, take
Mhm.
off them clothes, those
Mhm.
dress clothes, put
Mhm.
on my little sweats, and I was cleaning toilets in that same building.
Wow.
And executives were seeing that, right? And they were like, "Weren't you just over?" Yes, smiling, yes,
Mhm.
doing what I need to do. And then one day an executive said, "Look, I got some overtime in my office. Why don't you
Mm.
come on over there?" And Nicole, you're gonna know all about this when I say this. "Why don't you come over there and help me put some destroy some documents and put them in the burn bag? Why don't you
Mhm.
come and rip them up, put them in the burn bag?" So
Wow.
I said, "Okay, that's time, double time or time and a half, sure."
Mhm.
And then guess what that led to? When an opening came available,
Mhm. Mhm.
he said to me, "You've proven yourself here.
Yeah.
I need you to apply for this position, this promotion,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
go through the process." And I already felt like he was going to hire me, but I needed to go through the process. And then that's how my career pretty much has been, is that I opened myself up and was vulnerable to my supervisors. This is what's going on in my home life. And I just
Mhm.
want to tell, I mean, I had to get all the gory details,
Sure.
but I did that, and they were so supportive. And then once I opened up my mouth and said, "I would like to go to school too." Okay.
Mhm.
And I waited when I was halfway through my bachelor's, right?
Yeah.
And they said, "We'll take care of the second half of your bachelor's." And the way we
Mhm.
framed it was professional development. So I made sure
Sure.
the classes
Sure.
aligned with my job.
That's
And then
right. That's right.
and
That's
then
right.
and then my master's, they took care of all the classes except two.
Mhm.
And further that, they sent me to American University to the executive leadership program, and then other, OPM type of
Mhm.
programs. So I've
Mhm.
had great supporters, I've had good supervisors, and I've had not so great supervisors, but there were
Mhm.
lessons learned in all of that. And so
Yeah.
so to have retired from the federal government before the age
Yeah.
of 50,
Mhm.
I said, "I'll take it and get my pension, Nicole. I'll take it."
Yeah. Yeah, that's really, really powerful. So many different things. But before, the time is always escaping when we are having a great conversation. But I want you to talk about one or two strategies for people who are listening and just really trying to figure out how they can advance in their careers. And what I hear though is also the hand of God that has been on your life, but some strategies that people can implement. And then I want you to talk about your company and the work that you're doing.
Absolutely. Thank you. So what I will say is, get out of your own way. And what I mean by that, remove fear. One of the strategies that I did, when I first came in the government, is I observed. And I observed, like, okay, I know I don't want to stay as clerk typist forever. And there's nothing wrong with that profession, but I knew what I wanted for myself. And so I saw a gentleman who was sitting in a job that I wanted.
Mhm.
And so don't be afraid to say, "Hey, can I pull up with you, or sit down with you, meet up with you for
Mhm.
15 minutes over coffee, whatever, virtual coffee, because I want to learn more about how did you, get to your position, and what type of training and education did you get?" And the gentleman obliged me. So I continued that over the last couple of decades in my years, in my career. So definitely do that, right? Don't be afraid to ask others about how they got there and what it took to
Mhm.
get get there. The other piece, which I've talked throughout this interview, is get mentors.
Mm-hmm.
Get mentors inside, outside, or whatever. There are pros and cons to mentors, but I'm a huge proponent of it because they can help you see your blind spots. They
Mm-hmm.
can share their own experiences of what they've gone through and their life lessons and how they managed to do it. So those are two things that I would say.
Yeah, and that's really powerful. And, mentors also speak your name in rooms that you're
Oh
not
yeah,
in.
they can be your sponsors too, right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So tell me a little bit about your company and what you do.
Sure. And it's interesting because everything I told you about my life and career, I took all of that when my brother passed away. And I told you there's something more in life. And God said, this is what you need. You need to help others with their careers who may have need to overcome personal challenges. So that's
Hmm.
why I really focus on my clients' personal, like what's going on with you, because that can spill over into their professional.
Hmm.
So I help mid-level women accelerate to the next level in their careers, whether it's promotion, whether it's transitioning to a new career, or just showing up greater in their
Hmm.
current role. So that's what I've been doing. And during this pandemic, I've been on the mission in terms of getting people back to work and all
Hmm.
of that. And God is amazing. So I was able to help and provide resources to over 100 people. My goal was 100, but it
Hmm.
was over
Hmm.
100 and something people through various ways of doing that.
That is awesome and phenomenal. Just so awesome. And so I have to tell you that I'm really excited about all of this great work that you're doing and you continue to do. And you have gotten so many awards. Most recently, a Trailblazer Award for your work in diversity, inclusion, and belonging. Tell us why that work is so important to you.
Oh my goodness, that work is so important to me because um I saw my mom struggle with a fifth grade education and having to leave school to help her parents, in terms of sharecropping and other
Hmm.
things in the South.
Hmm.
And life it's about being inclusive, right? And understanding that diversity is out there, but it's also diverse mindset and thought
Hmm.
processes,
Hmm.
right? And so I've seen how it shows up in a workplace. Like I told you, I was in the government nearly 31 years.
Hmm.
I felt like I couldn't really show up as my authentic self.
Hmm.
So my mindset has shifted, and it's good for others to see leaders who are showing up as their authentic self, no matter what environment they are in, that they have courageous leadership to speak up for others. And
Hmm.
that's what's important, that quiet voice that's in the room, making sure that there's a voice that's there and that we are not all alike, but we have to respect. I believe in respecting one another and
Hmm.
knowing that they belong.
Yeah, that's really, really powerful. That's powerful. And so I have to ask you, like I asked all of my guests, when you hear the term show up great, what does that mean to you? What kind of feeling do you get, when someone says, I'm going to show up great?
Oh, wow. So look, great is relative, just like
Hmm.
success is relative. It's all in how you define it. When I say show up great, I'm saying show up as your authentic self,
Hmm.
unashamed, unapologetic, and confidently. So
Hmm.
go out there and be bold and be courageous in whatever you do.
Yeah, and that's powerful. So how can people get in contact with you?
They can certainly follow me on social media as Dr. Jennifer Bryant. And my website is reachingwithinempowerment.com. And I also have a Facebook group,
Mhm.
Reaching Within Empowerment Journey.
That's awesome. Now, as we begin to wrap up, do you have any activities that you are working on, any initiatives that you have coming up that we can share with the audience?
Oh, that will be great. So I have a leadership mentoring circle interest
Mhm.
meeting that's happening on Saturday, November 13th at noon. My first cohort has already gone through. It's a 4-month program, but we only meet once a month because the rest of the month you are doing the work.
Mhm.
So I'm having an interest meeting, 30 minutes. Like I said, I respect people's time. So that's what's upcoming for me. And right now I'm just out here just trying to make impacts,
Yeah.
making impacts.
Yeah, that's really awesome. Well, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to share your heart, share strategies, and to let people know of the great work that you're doing because you're definitely doing some very powerful and some great work. And thank you so much for joining us on the Nicole Mason Show. And until next time, thank you for tuning in to the Nicole Mason Show.